Hello guys and welcome to today's data mine. With a brief diversion this last weekend for Yu-Gi-Oh!, today we're back with a new event in Azur Lane. It's going to have both German and British ships coming. Before I get into the event though, I have a few things I want to talk about first. To catch us up with the recent minor patches since the last major event, 5 new augment modules have been added to the game. Dido's is actually pretty good, increasing her buff, giving her an all-out assault, and a slash attack. I-19 is also pretty good, giving her hit and torpedo stat boost and crit rate, as well as an extra barrage. Sendai, Lamar's, and Nicholas all have pretty poor augment modules though. There are also a few chibi updates, where Inazuma changes her eye color. Azur Lane has also made some future announcements through their Weibo account. They anticipate 8 quality of life updates in May of this year. One includes overhauling the mail system, which will allow you to sort and filter through it easier based on things such as items in the mail. Also, items you collect in the mail will go to a special storage room that won't count towards your caps, so you should be able to safely collect your mail now. Also, meta ships are going to be getting their own dock space, something I've wished for since I found out that we couldn't retire them. So I'm glad we got that problem solved, thank gosh. Also, meta ships from the cruise missions will be returning. Other improvements include UI updates, dorm system updates, more minigames, ASMR background playback function, new standby function, and an overhaul of the main interface where you interact with your ship girls. And they assure that they will still maintain the current existing version so you can choose between which one you like better. Going to be an exciting Chinese anniversary. And with that, we are all caught up and we can talk about the event now. However, we have to talk about a little scandal revolving this event before we get into the actual content. This ship got canceled. It was supposed to release today, but it will not. This is HMS Anson, a King George V class battleship. However, there were numerous complaints about the design of this ship, and ultimately, Manjuu, due to criticism, decided to pull the ship and delay it until further notice. This outrage of the design occurred in all 3 servers, English, Chinese, and Japanese. Many in the community believe that the design of this ship does not match the consistencies with her sisters. And don't be like my silly mod that doesn't think Duke of York matches either. I ran a poll amongst my community, and 73% of you believe the design should be reworked. Due to many Easter eggs, some people think that this design may have first been for the submarine HMS Sunfish. Regardless, Anson isn't coming today. She will get a redesign, and we'll see if they reuse this design for any other ship in the future. Also, I almost forgot, it is almost the end of the month, so we have a few updates that are coming on April 1st. Sandy Day is right around the corner. With the new month, we are going to be getting a new challenge mode. This month is going to be Aries fought against Yukikaze. Here on the screen are going to be her skills. This will release at the start of next month. Also starting at the start of next month is going to be a new cruise pass. Inazuma will get the exclusive skin for it, and the newest meta ship will be Vampire meta, which we will talk about right now. She is a part of the Cinders of Hope's faction. Stat-wise, she gave up some firepower to get more health. Overall, her stats are terrible though. Vampire was not a very good ship to begin with. Skill number 1 reads, when this ship's main gun hits the same enemy 15 times, she applies an Evernight kiss to that enemy, and enemies with that kiss take 6% more damage from this ship only, and that lasts until the end of the battle. Also, she gets a self-torpedo weapon crit rate plus 10%. When this ship's torpedoes hit an enemy with the kiss, 8% of the damage dealt will heal this ship, and it removes the kiss from the enemy. This skill is hot garbage. First of all, you got to do 15 times to get this kiss, which only applies a 6% damage buff that only applies to her, and then as soon as her torps hit, you get to heal a little bit and you remove the kiss. Awful. Skill number 2 reads, every 20 seconds she triggers a special barrage. This barrage always lands critical on enemies that have a kiss, and it removes the kiss. Lovely. More removing the kiss. Every 20 seconds, I mean, you have to hit 15 times. You're literally going to have to put like the fastest DD gun on her just to get those kisses all over the place. And then of course her all-out assault happens and she gets her opside buff for being a meta ship. She is a very bad meta ship. Vampire meta is collection only. And so with that, I think we can move on to the event finally. This event is called Zero to Hero, although I like the literal Japanese translation better, working hard to defeat the Demon King from scratch. This is going to be an SP event. It is going to be RPG fantasy themed. which I think resulted in a lot of great skins coming for this event. Not to mention both the new dorm set and the new gear skins are on theme too. This event's going to work a little bit differently, which I think is going to be a good change of pace. You're going to have these challenge stages that you're going to obtain coins from. You're going to use those coins to pray to the gods, which will give you rewards, and you'll be also clearing through the story mode, which will give you some equipment that we'll talk about later in this video. Additionally, you'll have to raise your adventurer level along the way too, and you'll be fighting for different blessings. Honestly, this event looks like it'll be a fun little mini RPG. It doesn't look too extensive, but I'm excited for it. So with that, let's talk about the ships that we can get. With the loss of Anson, there will be 4 ships that you can get from the event, 5 if you count Vampire Meta. Here are their fleet tech. 3 of the new ships will be obtainable only through the gacha. However, the elite heavy cruiser Devonshire will be obtained through the accumulation of event points. However, looking at her kit, she looks pretty weak. Stat-wise, she is awful. She is an elite heavy cruiser, but she's also light armor and a torpedo heavy cruiser, so that's really bad. Not to mention her HP pool, which is something that heavy cruisers tend to be known for, is below that of many light cruisers. And her skills aren't really helping that much either. Her skill number 1 says if the fleet's flagship is a carrier or a light carrier, this ship procs an additional special barrage when the flagship launches an airstrike. So it basically adds a barrage to your carrier. And then this ship takes 15% less damage when this ship has taken damage accumulating to 25% of her max HP. She heals herself 8% of her max HP, and this procs once per battle. So basically helps with her survivability, but she already has terrible armor, terrible HP, and terrible stats for survivability. Like her evasion's not even that good either. So yeah, that just kind of makes up for being bad in general. Her skill number 2 says that every 3 main gun shots, she has a 70% chance to increase by 25% her firepower, torpedo, hit stat, and evasion stat for 10 seconds. It's a buff, it's kind of large, but she has poor base stats, and it only lasts for 10 seconds and doesn't happen very often. This ship is collection only. Next up, we'll talk about the other elite ship, the elite light cruiser HMS Liverpool. Stat-wise, she doesn't look good, but at least she looks better than Devonshire. Skill number 1 reads, all Vanguard fleets increase their firepower by 10%. If that just said all ships, or even all main fleet, this ship would probably just be used off of that. Like a buff like that is actually pretty good. But Vanguard firepower, not so much. And she's probably going to be giving up a lot, so that one word Vanguard ruins this skill. Also, when this fleet has ammo, she gets an extra 15% damage buff. Okay, most of the time you're going to have an ammo, so that's fine. When this ship fires her torpedo weapon, she triggers a special barrage. Okay, cool. Skill number 2, she has 10% less damage taken from torpedoes to herself. And when this ship's HP falls under 50% for the first time, she generates a shield that has 7% of her HP. Hopefully she's not getting under 50% and only getting damage reduction against torpedoes. This is not going to cut it. Literally, this ship is not very good, although it was like one word away from being something to consider to use. Otherwise, it's collection only. All right, let's stick with the Royal Navy. Next up, we have the SR Destroyer HMS Nubian. At first glance, she's not awful. She has a main gun +1. And considering comparing her against other British destroyers, which aren't very good to begin with, she has already a good leg up. Her firepower is low though, so that main gun +1 becomes a lot less effective when you consider she has less than 100 firepower. A comparable Chinese ship with a main gun +1 has 75% more firepower. And she's not really tanky enough to warrant giving up some of those HP auxiliary items to get extra firepower. Her limit break 3 skill is all out assault being cut in half the number of shots needed. So if her skills are really good, she has potential. So let's see what they are. Skill number 1, every 20 times this ship fires her main guns, that's a lot, she triggers a special barrage. On this barrage's first proc, she gets plus 15% main gun crit rate. On its second proc, she gets plus 15% main gun crit damage, and then both effects are going to last the whole battle. So that's after 40 times that she fires, she's going to get 15% main gun crit rate and 15% main gun crit damage. And then she also gets a slash attack every 2 times the barrage procs, so if for some reason the battle continues well beyond her 40 shots that she has, she continues to have slash attacks. This is not that great. That is a long time to wait, even if you're putting really fast destroyer guns on her. She's got the main gun +1, but like, and it's not even a huge effect. I mean, yeah, we we do like crit damage, but this is an okay skill. I don't think it's gonna warrant playing her. Skill number 2, she increases her firepower and torpedo stat by 12%, so that helps right off the bat. So we're up another basically 11, 12 firepower. Every 15 seconds, there's a 70% chance to mark an enemy, which then takes 15% more damage from Nubian. Unfortunately, only takes that extra damage from Nubian, and she's, you know, a destroyer. Not a lot of damage. Also, it procs a sonar scan that reveals enemy subs, and both effects last for only 8 seconds. If the proc fails, though, she takes 15% less damage from all sources for 8 seconds instead. And then she has an all-out assault. So this ship is probably not worth it. She has a sonar, so that's kind of cool. So if you did want to run an all British fleet for World 14, World 15, now you have access to a very easy sonar. So that's something I would think is good. But overall, this ship just doesn't have a lot going for it. It does have a main gun +1, so that puts her above a lot of other destroyers in the British faction. But the British faction is pretty weak in the Vanguard, especially for the destroyers. Like, obviously, there are certain ships that are decent. Yeah, I don't think Nubian's really that great. I think she is playable, and it's probably around that sonar, if anything. And, you know, there are much better sonars out there at this point in the game. So I don't really think Nubian's that great either. All right, so all the British ships were a bust. So let's move on to the German ship. We have the SR heavy cruiser KMS Friedrich Carl. And, well, at least she has medium armor, which is, you know, something to start. But she is a heavy cruiser with torpedoes again, so that's not a good sign. She actually can equip a large cruiser gun. This one only applies to like the triple 283mm CB gun. She can't do all of the CB guns, only specific German ones. Stat-wise, she looks okay. Her health is actually decently sizable, comparable with a heavy cruiser, not like under 4,000 like the British one was earlier. So, you know, stat-wise, she looks okay, other than the fact that she is a torpedo-based heavy cruiser, and she doesn't have a main gun +1, so that really hurts. She's also not Japanese, so she doesn't have very high torpedo stats, so I'm starting to get skeptical here, but stat-wise, she's like very mid, very mid-tier. But let's move on to skills. Wow, this one has a lot of text. At the beginning of the battle, she generates a shield that blocks 5 torpedoes, and they last 10 seconds. Okay, cool. She also gets a 5% evasion rate, and that lasts the whole battle, and it is rate, not stat, so that's good. And she also obtains a harmonized status, which I assume this will be telling us what that means. If the Vanguard fleet is full, and this ship is in the frontmost position of the Vanguard, so you need to put her in the front, you attempt to tune her harmony every time this ship fires her main gun. Every time, okay. If the tuning fails, interesting, you heal the middle ship by 1.5% of that ship's max HP. That's cool. If it's successful, you give the rear Vanguard ship harmonized. So she's trying to harmonize with the ship in the back, and if it fails, you actually heal the middle. So you kind of want it to fail. That's kind of interesting. Harmony has a 25% success rate and gets 25% additional success rate every time it fails. So theoretically, it can only fail 3 times. The 4th time it will guaranteed to succeed. So you can't like heal forever by failing. You can only heal like 3 times. So it's not that great, but it is kind of funny. You like want it to fail. And then there's no buff for harmony. So skill number 2 must talk about what harmony does, because skill number 1 makes me want to not harmonize, ironically. Skill number 2 gives herself firepower and evasion stat buff by +10%. She actually like has some decent survivability here with the buffs and the HP and the evasion. Anyway, when this ship fires her main guns, all ships with harmonized status fire a special barrage, and that scales off of her skill level and the firepower stat. That's actually pretty good. So she's always harmonized right off the beginning of the battle. So she's always going to get this barrage every time she fires her main gun. So it's almost going to act like a main gun +1 in a way. And then if you harmonize, which should happen pretty quickly, we're talking like 4 main gun shots, she's going to then give that barrage to another ship. So it's like she gets it another one. So basically the strength of this ship comes down to how powerful this harmonized special barrage is, because she's going to have a bunch of them potentially if you put like a barrage gun on her, which is possible. This barrage is like shrapnel. It is normal ammo though, which is not great, but it's like this bouncing shrapnel that ignores shields. Not a ton of damage, but it's decent. I think that Friedrich Carl is definitely the best ship in this event, although I don't think she's going to be anywhere close to any of the UR or DRs that she's going to have to be competing for slots in. You know, Hindenburg, Unzen, Plymouth, Agir even. I don't think she beats out Agir and whatnot. So this is probably the best ship of the event, but I don't think it's considered a meta ship, but it is decent. This ship you could use. She seems like she has a lot going for her, but once again, she is a torpedo heavy cruiser without a main gun +1. She kind of fixes that because she has this skill where she has these, harmonized barrages that you can get multiple of, but otherwise she's kind of weak. Her all assault is not even that good. I think that none of the ships in here are like must pickups. Of course, fleet tech is important, collection rate is important. So if you have the cubes and you're not a new player, you can totally pick up these ships. But if you're a newer player and you're low on cubes, this might be an event you sit out. We do have a UR event coming in about a month and a half, so you want to be prepared for that. And nothing in here is something that you can't get from other events. So yeah, this is an event where the ships themselves are not that exciting, although the event structure itself seems very fun. Also, there is one more thing we have to talk about before we end, because this event is going to bring us a new equipment. It is a new auxiliary SR equipment, and it's an HP equipment. It's 550 HP, 640 at +13, so nice. We're in good shape here. And then it has an ability, and it picks one of the following at the beginning of the battle, basically a 1/3 chance of either of the skills proccing. So the first thing that can happen is 15 seconds after the start of the battle, the flagship fires a special barrage that scales on the total fleet power. Otherwise, another skill could be if everyone in the fleet gets +1% to all stats per different faction in the fleet. The French are considered a combined faction, and the meta is treated as a separate faction, and collab ships don't count. So theoretically, you could give 6% boost to all stats. These don't include speed though. So all stats excluding speed, you could potentially give 6% if you equip it in a fleet that has 6 different faction ships, which is kind of interesting if you think about it, but you can't guarantee that. It's only 1/3 chance to start the battle. Or every 35 seconds, she heals all Vanguard fleets by 1% of their max HP. So it is a heal. So it's either going to be a heal, a barrage, or a buff. So all of them are good, honestly. The only one that you have to be worried about is that middle one where you have to kind of plan for having different faction in the fleet. But the other ones is just a barrage and a heal. They're generally pretty good, and it's an HP stat. So this will go on a whole host of destroyers that you need to run. This is actually something that you should pick up. I would not miss out on this. So there is something in this event that's a must pick up, and it is the equipment. This shouldn't be too hard to pick up. It's going to be something you should be able to get through just completing the event, but be wary of that you do want to finish the event to get this item. Anyway, that's the event. It feels much more like a mini event. Obviously, it is in all SRs. There are no URs in this event. The next UR event is going to be coming during the Chinese anniversary in May. So I'm excited for this event. I will be streaming this event this weekend, so be on the lookout for that if you want to play the event with me. It should be something pretty quick to go through, not as much as some of the other events that we typically play that last for a lot of hours. And with that, I just have to say, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.